Welcome to CX in the Wild Season 3. Let's catch up with Dennis on Safari now.
Hi. All right. Hey, here we are. I just crashed a lunch at Customer Contact Week in Nashville, and I met three lovely people who I'd like to introduce you to and have a little CX in the Wild podcast. I'd like to just start with, why don't you introduce yourself and who you are and what you do?
Hi, my name is Phoebe Elkins. I am with Hilton Reservations and Customer Care out of Dallas, Texas. I am the Senior Manager of Loyalty and Reward Programs.
Awesome. And Stefnie?
Stefnie Howley with Match, and I'm a project manager.
Okay. And
I'm Kristin Witten, and I'm at Match. I manage our CX and trust and safety teams for Match, the best dating site, of course.
it's all the dating sites, right?
It is the dating site, dating mecca.
Talk about the human experience right there. We're going to get into that. Why don't we start by telling me, why are you here at CCW? Match.com, you seem to know a lot about experiences and people. What brings you to CCW?
Yeah, I'm here to meet new people, learn what can we do to help our members find their love, make those connections, help our team members help them. So,
and why am I not surprised you said you're here to meet new people? and tell me a little bit about, from the customer experience perspective, because you have this platform that takes a lot of customer data, matches it with other customers. So you seem to know a lot about people, their interests, how to connect people to create experiences. And let's be honest, finding your significant other is probably the ultimate experience. What is it about an event or a trade show that you come? Are you looking for technologies? What drives you to be here? I would just think you guys have it on lock.
do you want to answer? You going to?
So Stefnie Howley, I'm coming from a perspective of technology, what's out there, what's the latest and greatest. Since Match is, over 25 years old, some of our systems, we always want to make sure we're cutting edge. And at the front of what we do, besides connecting people and finding love, is really we're a technology company. So we have to stay out in front of what's going on in customer care.
Gotcha. And tell me, Phoebe, Hilton, you definitely have a wide purview. What brings you to this conference?
Great question. Obviously, this is my first CCW conference, and our fearless leader, Becky Plager, sits on the board.
Recent CX Hall of Fame inductee.
Absolutely. Congratulations. Well deserved, Becky. She is, sits on the board, and she has, given me this opportunity to come. And for me, I am excited about, one, networking. I've met these two fabulous women from Match.com who may find me a husband one day. But benchmarking is big for me right now in where I sit within Hilton. And then, of course, trying to understand what tools are out there, what new, opportunities we may have to partner with someone and bring it in and test and learn, right? Because we have some pretty great tools already. So just learning new things and educating myself on it.
You know what else I see going on? And I think I'd love to kind of shift the conversation. And by the way, in this podcast, you can just feel, let's not talk about that, or let's talk about it later. But one of the things you made me think of just then is the three of you were sort of talking about women's issues and just an awareness of this women in customer experience, let's call it. And one of the things I really like about CCW is its strong emphasis on empowering women in this culture of technology and maybe predominantly or historically male-driven. And so I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about that. The previous producer, Sandy, used to produce this show. And Sandy, I'll just give a shout out to Sandy. So I owe a lot of my success to Sandy because she believed in me when I was a younger speaker, and CCW has always given me a platform, but Sandy herself is such a powerhouse. And so do you feel comfortable talking about the women of CX and what's going on?
Definitely.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's start with you two. What are you observing, or give me the lay of the land when it comes to CX and women?
I want to piggyback really quickly on what you were saying about Sandy. So I have a desire to start speaking more on panels and creating my own brand. And so I reached out to Michael, and then he introduced me to Sandy, and it wasn't a really hard connection. It was very organic and it was natural. And she said, let me interview you basically. So we set up a one-on-one, and then she said, this is what we're doing. We'd love to have you speak on a panel and open doors. And I was like, what a gracious, incredible woman, because sometimes, unfortunately, you don't have women leaders who want to lift other women up. And why CCW Women is so powerful is that you're in a room full of women who just want to help you grow, who want to help you get to the next level, who want to be that stepping stone or that gracious hand that picks you up or gives you a hug when you need it. Because, we face different challenges in our careers, and it just lights me up. It gets me excited and makes me feel ultimately very loved and supported in a space that's male dominated.
I love that. Sandy had that same effect on me, so you're in good hands. What I'm curious about is, I love this idea of empowering each other, women. I'm not certain as a man exactly how I feel about that, just because on one hand, you could say we've always had the good old boys club, and this is an equal affirmation that groups can get together. But at the same time, I'm wondering, are there key issues that we as men should be aware of? I mean, on one, we're always on our toes, like, what do we need to do? But are there some key issues that maybe I don't know about that are trending or topical that you're addressing or you'd like the world to know are kind of important these days?
I think just to kind of start off, and it's been a common conversation lately, is that we get to work, we've already done a lot before we get to work. We have gotten up hours early. We have taken care of the kids, got them to school or whatever stage they are in. We have taken the dog on a walk. We have done 10 things and then got ourselves ready before we even start at our job. So sometimes, you get there and you're just like, okay. And I think we have to do so much more. And I don't want to overgeneralize, but I mean, honestly, women do most of that work, and then they're coming to work.
I feel attacked. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
It's just, it is a realization that you have to have, like, you get to work and somebody's like, I'm going to push you and I'm going to do this. And you're like, I've been pushing since 5:30 a.m. Yeah. So just knowing, and to what Steph said, having other women, support you and push you up. Even just a moment of, it was a rough morning or whatever, and then let's go get some coffee, let's start our day. It really helps you, it's just so important.
Yeah,
and to have that knowledge, even as a man, like, hey, they've already done a million things before they got here.
I'll share with you, because I do think this is an important topic, and I think a lot of people have a little concern about it. So I don't work for anybody, so I'll just get on it. I'll jump in. There's a couple of things I would say, which is we talk about the gender roles. And I think there are certain things that people want to tiptoe around, but men and women are created a little bit differently. If you need somebody to go lift 300 pounds off of a truck or something, and you have to choose, I think your mind instantly knows which gender might be, if they're available, to help you, a good choice. But I want to share with you a personal experience I had that I think the world needs to understand, and I hope the audience can hear this, which is when I built my business, we've grown significantly. We have 65 people. We're doing very well. But I'll tell you, I want to share with you just this vulnerable thing, which is a year ago, there were 5 of us. And we took on our first big client. It was a very big client. it took us from 0 to 25 employees in one shot. And that's the kind of growth that's difficult to manage. And I got in there, and I just, as an entrepreneur, I had to say to myself, I've been through a lot. I feel smart. I've been in businesses, but I'm also trying to be honest with myself. And I pulled my team together and I said, this is a great opportunity, but I can't do it. I've analyzed it this way and that way, up and down. And I just want to be honest. I don't want the client to suffer, and I don't want to lose or fail, but I'm going to just do it. And in that meeting, the gender role thing came up in a really beautiful way, which is I was talking to my team, and they're all women and mothers. And I said, I just can't do it. And they said to me, and I'll never forget this in my entire life, they said, Dennis, thank you for having this conversation with us, honestly. But you're talking to a room full of mothers. Complicated and impossible is what we do. Mm-hmm. You give us the ball, we're good. Just give us the ball and we'll run. We're 3 times that size now. But it was because, just what you said, Kristin, by the time you get up in the morning, you've done complicated and impossible all day long.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And it is a choice to be a mom and to be whatever you want to call it, a good mom, and to do those things. But sometimes it's not a choice. Like, that is what we do. We are raising human beings. It's life and death sometimes, and getting them to school. So
I'm curious, what do you think? Are there other issues that are politically safe to talk about in this podcast that we should be just bringing awareness to? Phoebe, what do you think is important in terms of women, the workplace, customer experience?
I think there's a lot, right? I think the things that I think about, I'm a single mom, right? So it's a little different for me. And then I have children that are on 2 ends of the age spectrum, right? I have a 20-year-old who's a junior in college, and then I have a 7-year-old who's a second grader. But there's women who are also, non-mothers, right? Who are, Latino or brown women, right? Who are, shooting for growth in the stars as they should, and we as women have to support all women.
Yes.
And sometimes I think we can get in each other's way because we all want a piece of the pie. Yeah. And I found that and I don't know where it comes from, right? I don't know if men have that same thing. It's like the ego thing, I don't know. I'm not a man, right? But I have learned over the years, like, being a cheerleader and a supporter for women, period, is exactly what we should be. And we have to be in order to see success and growth for other women. No other way.
Yeah, I agree.
Most definitely.
So I hear this a lot, and I'm glad you posed that to us. I think men, we face our own interpersonal issues, but I do hear this a lot about this group or nurturing environment that strong women leaders are building today. And are you all part of the CCW Women's group? Can you tell the audience? I don't know about it because I'm not in there, but I hear so many great things about it. Can you just tell me what's happening with that part of the organization and what you love about it?
So I have been to CCW Women, I think 3 times now. The last time I went, I was so pregnant that I had my baby a week. Like, I think I got home from CCW on Monday and I had my baby on Friday.
Wow.
she came early, so it was a surprise to everybody. But while I was there, this big old belly and thinking about my career and what's going to happen when I go on maternity leave, and you have internal dialogue. Last time I went on maternity leave, came back to a whole new org structure and a new boss, right? So, and a new job title that I didn't choose. It was kind of like, here you go. It's kind of similar to what you did before. And so I have all these thoughts of like, what's going to happen when I go on maternity leave for 5 months? And I started talking to Colleen Beers, and she said, I'm pretty sure she has 5 children, but don't quote me on that. And I said, what happens to your career every time you have a baby? She's like, oh, it goes like this. And if you guys can see my arms going up and then down, it's like a mountain range, right? You have a baby, it goes down. Your baby gets older, your growth, you're doing awesome. Shoot, you have another baby. Not shoot, but you know what I mean? And it's like this huge up and down pattern. And I was like, wow, that's really relatable, because you feel like you're starting over in some sense. And it was just nice to have someone who could share that advice and guide me through this. And this is my 3rd baby, so it's not new, but it's also like really refreshing to hear that it's not just me. And then I can have someone to mentor me through that, hold my hand through that, and also be so supportive to say, I've done it 5 times.
Right.
And then she's like a powerhouse at Alorica. So she's someone that I can look up to be like, well, if she can do it with 5 kids, I can do it with 3. And just hearing the stories and the testimonies of the women on the panels and their different backgrounds, from their degrees to their non-degrees to how they were started on the phones, or their growth patterns, or where they had to struggle. We all have our struggle, no matter where we come from, what we look like, but we can find and come together and build each other up throughout those struggles. And the more you vocalize that, the more you can lift someone up. It's a game changer. And unfortunately, in my, it's a personal thing, but my past, I haven't had strong women leaders. And so you ask them a question and they give you a half-ass answer, because it's like they don't want to share all the information. Wow. Because if they give you the information, then you have the knowledge, then you could potentially take their job. And it's a very small mindset. Our mindset between me and Kristin and the other women is there's enough for everybody.
I want to flip the script on that for a second, just because I hear you, but I will just give you a little inside track. If I had to pick one thing about men in the workplace, that's the cutthroat thing. They're always withholding everything possible to keep the other men in check. Wow. So we have that too, only we don't have a support group that tries to break that down. So you're ahead of us. Once again, you're ahead of us.
So I'll tell you, when I walked in this morning, this is my first CCW event. I signed in, I got registered and got my badge. And as soon as I got my badge, Heidi Solomon Orlick, I met her. I didn't know anything about her. She came up, she helped me put my badge on, like as if she was my mom, and I was okay with that. And she introduced herself, and she was a firehouse. Like, she inspired me in 2 minutes. And she invited me to the women's dinner, and I didn't know anything. She texted the invite to me, and I was just inspired. Like, quick story, right? Like, we just it was like a fireworks went off, and she sent me a LinkedIn invite, and I read her story there, and I'm like, oh, wow. That was just it. I felt good walking in the door and getting that from a woman.
I love this story, and thank you all for having this conversation on my podcast, because so much I'm talking about solutions and practices. But if I'm being thoughtful, CCW has been a powerhouse at building culture for the CX industry. And hearing you talk about the heroes and the leaders who are building this women's cultural moment for you. I mean, they build CCW's, like we talked about Sandy, for me as a man, building cultural relevancy in the industry. But I think hearing about this CCW women's movement is fantastic. Before we get too long on this podcast, we'll wrap it up soon. I'd be curious just to kind of give the audience 2 things. One, what you value most out of what you get most out of CCW's women-centric initiatives. And then 2, any advice you'd have for the general public men or women included, to continue the strides and good vibes in the women's movements. So let's start with you. So Kristin, first question: what's the best thing about CCW's women's culture?
So if I have to pick two, I will say connections and inspiration.
Okay, so being able to find others and be inspired, but also it does sort of fortify your business position in the industry. That's great. One piece of advice you would have to, let's just say, to men out there listening, how can we be more supportive of women's issues?
I think be open-minded and just thoughtful.
Inclusive, yeah.
Inclusive.
Okay.
Give people a chance. Don't just say, oh, they won't be able to handle this, or they have too many things going on at home, or whatever. Just like you said earlier, like, we can do the impossible, and give us a chance.
Awesome. Steph, top thing you love about CCW women's culture?
I'm super big on empowerment. And so that just when you walk in the room, you're just like high as you can be. You're like, woohoo, I got this. I got all these people who are going to help me just grow as a person and really empower me to walk in my best, I don't know what you'd say, we're in Nashville, so boots, or, you take your best steps, but really grow. And that's really important in my world. And then the network, the opportunity to meet people who are doing similar things or things you've never thought of, and to be able to ask them questions and bounce ideas and share that network with them. And
having it in the context of the life experiences, like you said. Mm-hmm. How do you do it with one kid? What about two? What about three? What about four? That's a great thing. Advice you might give to the listeners of how we can be better supporters in this transformation of women in the workplace.
I guess I don't want to sound like I'm just, harping on this, but when someone gets sick in your family, who does that fall on? And it doesn't mean just your children, but a mother, a father, an aunt and uncle. It usually falls on the nurturer. And, most of the time, I won't generalize, but that's the woman. And so when you need a wellness day, or you need to take PTO, or in my situation, I'm pumping during meetings and my camera's not on because I'm trying to exclusively breastfeed a baby, don't ask so many questions. Have faith and trust that we're following the guidelines, that we know the rules, and we're not taking advantage of anything. If you know your leader and your leader knows you, then it shouldn't be like, well, why are you doing this? Well, because I need to right now. Otherwise my camera would be on. Do you want me to have this breast pump on while we're doing this? Be happy to. Right. So those types of things, especially for me, being a young mom of 3 kids under 5 and having a full-time career and growing that career, 3 little girls, I want them to have these opportunities too, to really develop and grow in their career if that's what they choose, and have those same opportunities. And like Kristin said, don't leave us out. Like, if there's a chance that we get to travel or do these types of events or go to a site visit, I want to go to South Africa. I want to go wherever. Yeah. My mom will be there in a heartbeat. My husband, he'll be like, sure, baby, go. Don't automatically discount us because we have chaos at home. We'll put it on mute. We'll pause it for a week. Let us have that opportunity as well.
Wow, you unpacked so many interesting things in my mind. And Phoebe, I saw you were nodding. So break it down for us. What you love about CCW, this building of the women's culture here at this event, but then also your advice. But then I have a follow-up question.
Okay. Ditto what Stefnie said. That was powerful, right? For me, I'll based on what she said, again, I think for me here this week is the learning, the inspiration, like Kristin said, and I think the empowerment, right, to take back that feeling, right, to be inspired to go back and hold on to that, right, and take that back to my team and the front line. And I'm a pretty good culture energy girl, so taking that back and holding on to that is, I think these types of events are needed, right? And then to the second question, I would say, give us a seat at the table. Give us a seat at the table, always.
I I really am. I hear you say that, and I have all these thoughts in my mind about the seat at the table, getting the same equal opportunity to travel or whatever. And I just want to, from my own perspective, here's what when you said that, a personal thing and an academic thing came to my mind, which is my wife, if you already know, if I get sick, like if I have a little cough, I'm in bed, I have to lay there and I need somebody to like make sure I'm going to live, right? Yes. I mean, I could have a fever of like 100 and I'm out. And my wife went through not one, but 2 bouts of cancer, and she shrugged it off like a boss. Like I was always like, are you okay? She's like, yes, of course I'm okay. And I'm like, no, like I would have it taken like 10 years off of my career. So I admire the mental fitness that moms or women bring to the table. I think where men may have some physical fitness, maybe, I'm not a scientist, but maybe there's some studies there about mental fitness. But I would also say that to put it into perspective, and again, I can say these things because it's my podcast. If I let men have to carry a baby and be in the workplace, if I had to carry a baby, oh my God. I mean, I'd call everybody, bro. No, can't do it. No camera for like 4 years. Like we're out. I'm pregnant. No camera for 4 years. So I think that the reason I bring that up is there are double standards. I think that just us having a little fun conversation about this continues the dialogue and the narrative. So I appreciate all of you letting me crash your women's lunch here. Lastly, outside of this environment, where do you go to get this more of this vibe and culture you're talking about? Just name one place, because I think if there's young women or other women who are curious in going down this adventure, they might be interested in some of your other resources. Where do you go? Church, schools, community, like where are other places that if I'm a woman, I can tap into this in a positive way to help myself?
Yeah, depending on who you are and what your interests are, but yeah, definitely churches and schools and different types of communities.
Do you have a website or a community that you belong to that you can share?
Let's see. I just moved, so probably all my new ones are really small town. But I would if you have to seek it out, that's one thing, but you could also make it. Like within your coworkers. For example, I know we're trying to wrap this up. Steph and I are probably on the opposite ends of any personality test that you can throw at us. We could be enemies. Really easy. But we just work so well together. I use her strengths. She pushes me all the time and encourages me all the time. And I'm a better person because of that. And then I'm there when she needs a moment. She's got lots of energy. So I'm always there to listen and nurture. You nurture me. Yes. And I would say finding that, even if you think, oh, that person and I, there's no way. Like it could be the best.
So that just warms my heart because I raise daughters and I have raised them with that what you just said in mind, which I said, the world can be an unpleasant place, but just remember, empowerment starts inside you. Mm-hmm. And I love that you said that you take responsibility for empowering each other. And it's so important. It's not always external forces that shape us. We shape ourselves. And the fact that you're advising on leadership from within to include others. I love that. So way to go. I love that. How about Steph? Resources for other people, other ladies.
So I am like a seminar guru back in the day.
Okay.
I was all about it. I went to Tony Robbins. That was like my first, I was pregnant with my first daughter and my husband and I walked on the coals and did the whole thing. People love him or hate him. I love Tony Robbins. He's fun and inspiring. And he's got some great points. And then the next thing I did was in a retreat, and it's called Captivating, and it's based in like a non-denominational Christian faith, but it's all about women and, using your femininity and your power and not. It was so good. And then I went to PSI, and then I went to Landmark, like you name it, I did it, because I went through this phase where I was like, I need to figure out what I want to do with my career. I had been fired, and I had never been fired in my life. Like, it was like, I'd never been to the principal's office, and then I got fired, and I was like, what happened? And so that led me on this
that's
journey.
the best way to find out you're working for a bad company is
right?
if they fire you. They weren't ready for you.
You know what they did? They did me a favor, because I was like 22 at the time. So, over 10 years ago, and it led me on this journey I read. So Audible is another great source.
Okay.
I listened to my Audible like crazy. I actually looked at how many books I have, 119 books on my Audible.
Nice.
And I thought about that in dollars. I was like, they've been getting a lot of money off of me. But that knowledge, and to be able to just pause it and not have to remember where you are. And a lot of that is personal development types of books and business, sales, really just honing in. And then when it comes to like my network and Kristin.
CX in the wild.
I was pulling up this great Audible book.
What is it?
What is it?
Okay. It's Feeding the Soul, and it's by Tabitha Brown.
She's amazing.
That is what I'm listening to, and I walk the dog in the morning.
Awesome.
And every day I sit and think, because I only get little bits, 20 minutes at a time, which is great. It allows me to think about what she said and apply it and really deep dive. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, great resources.
So great resources. I name dropped a bunch if you like seminars and you just got money to blow. But that led me to writing a book and going from there. And then and that's what opened the door for Match. As I started at Match as a temporary hire date coach, and it's because I had this background of empowerment, and you can't go and find your soulmate or your person if you're not healthy. So you start with the person when you're dating.
Did you say date coach?
Mm-hmm.
I was laughing about that when I met her. I was like, wait a minute.
Wait.
Is that a paid service?
Whole nother podcast.
Yeah.
What exactly is a date coach?
So you just like call in and you would get me. Like I said, I started on the phones at Match, and you would say, whatever happened, right? You had a bad date, or you don't know what to wear, or you're going through a divorce, or you haven't dated in 20 years.
Who makes the first move?
Who makes the first move? All these women they want to be pursued. And I have to relate to them and say, like, if you're in a restaurant or a bar and you see someone who you might think is attractive, or you would want them to notice you, what would you do? And they would be like, oh, I'd probably smile. So if you would smile, why wouldn't you just write like something to that person so they know that, you're smiling at them basically through Match. So that was just a little tip.
Okay.
But,
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, super fun.
We could talk about that. I'm fascinated. All right. Well, thank you for sharing your resources, the books, and I know we're in the home stretch here on this podcast, but Phoebe, you have a wide perspective. Tell us how women can get more involved in this and how men can support the movement. What are your resources?
I'm also a huge fan of Audible. I mean, literally every day. I'm a Tabitha Brown fan too. Like when she said it, it was like, whoa, yes. I mean, huge fan. Brene Brown too is a big one. Yes. Like every woman should be listening to Brene. I mean, she is serious. I actually bought my team a book, right? Like I've done it every quarter previous. And
should men in the workplace be reading these books? Do you think that's appropriate, or is it helpful? Is that like something we can be doing?
I think it would allow them to be relatable, right? I mean, when you can be relatable to what women are feeling and needing, that's always helpful. And then I have a tribe of women, right? Like I keep my circle, as this, I call them my tribe, because they are the ones that I can count on to tell me the truth. And that's the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? I don't have a website. I don't, I have Facebook and Instagram and, I'm too old for Snapchat, as I would say, but
everyone is.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's my thing. So, yeah.
Awesome. Phoebe, Stefnie, Kristin, thank you so much for being on CX in the Wild. And do you want people to get in touch with you for any reason or?
Sure. I'm Phoebe Elkins. You can follow me on Instagram, Phoebe1978, or Facebook at Phoebe Elkins, or LinkedIn, of course, Phoebe Elkins.
Yes, of course. Stefnie, it's Stefnie, Howley, and that's Howley. But you're welcome to find me on LinkedIn. I have a public Instagram, so if you want to connect, I'm here.
All right.
Don't write to me on Facebook, though. I don't check that.
Okay.
And I'm on LinkedIn, Kristin, but it's my main name, Higgins. I haven't switched it over yet, so.
And it's Kristin with an I, right?
It is Kristin. And I may change it in the future to Witten. It's helped so far since I work in trust and safety at Match. It helps a little bit to keep my safety. So, yeah.
Awesome. I would say thank you for sharing that information with me. If you're listening and you want to reach out and continue to build a tribe of empowered women, these three ladies have been exceptional to speak to. Thank you all. And that's a wrap.
Thanks for coming on this adventure. To catch up with Dennis for CX news and industry events, visit www.denniswakabayashi.com.